Episode 271.
When that student comes back and you run into them again 3 years out or 5 years out, and you see how successful they have become, sometimes you don't realize it's going to happen. I tell the instructors here a lot of times that it may not seem like they're really listening to what you say, but it's amazing how many times they can repeat exactly what I said to them 5 years ago. One just said to me the other night, that said, I want you to know that when I need to find my notebook that I took notes in your class, I have to go around the whole shop to find it because everybody uses that notebook.
Welcome, Aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hey, welcome, Aftermarket professionals throughout North America and around the world, to episode 271 of the Remarkable Results Radio podcast. Carm Capriato here, your host. Glad to have you here. Welcome to this very up-close and personal episode with Educator Jim Morton. This aftermarket story is supported by Federal Mogul Motor Parts and Garage Gurus. For serious technical training and support, online, on-site, and on demand, Garage Gurus is everything you need to know. Find out more at fmgaragegurus.com. Hey, I got my chance to interview Jim Morton at the ASA-PA Super Saturday event in October 2017, and besides his full-time gig at Automotive Training Centers in Warminster, PA, Jim is a highly sought-after aftermarket advanced diagnostic trainer. He owns his own mobile diagnostics company, MATS, Morton's Automotive Technical Services. Hey, do you know how easy it is to listen with the Remarkable Results Radio listening app available on your iOS or Android platform? Well, just search for Remarkable Results Radio in your app store and download, tablet or phone. Every episode is at your fingertips with the episode highlight. And when you use Bluetooth connectivity to your vehicle, you can hear every episode through your car radio. Hey, pass the educational value to one of your industry colleagues. The richness and value of the podcast grows because you have helped spread the word. Hey, get social with me like new Facebook friends Jeff Hogue, Pedro Sanchez, and Sherry Ritter. And to my new LinkedIn connections, Josh Montalban and Bruce Oliver. Thank you for engaging socially with the podcast. Now, for every one of my social links, go to remarkableresults.biz/social. Now, listen to Jim Morton, a legacy aftermarket professional. He was a shop owner for many years. He decided to sell them and go into mobile diagnostics. He's done well in business, but you might say he had a calling. He got a call from Automotive Training Center for a request to substitute teach for about 4 weeks, and that was 22 years ago. He loved it and never looked back. Now, besides being a catalyst for helping to train the techs of the future, Jim is also in high demand as an aftermarket trainer at Vision KC, NACAT, ASA, Automechanika, and where we met at ASA-PA Super Saturday. And he's also done some other regional training venues around the country. Jim and I have been trying to get together to interview, and it finally happened one Saturday at the Automotive Training Center at the ASA-PA Super Saturday event, where he was a featured instructor. Find the show notes for this episode at remarkableresults.biz/E271. Now, enjoy hearing from Jim Morton. Hey, I'm at the ASA-PA Super Saturday, and Jim, it has only taken me about a year to get you to sit down in a studio here with me. Jim Morton, say hello.
First of all, welcome to PA. We've been trying to get this together for a long time. It's very, very happy to see it finally happening. We get to talk, and also the Super Saturday event.
And I'm in the place that you're working and teaching at, and this came over an evolution of time.
Unlike most educators, I just want to say I kind of backed into this by helping out the school with a quote-unquote a 4-week help-out period, but that was 21 years ago.
21 years ago. They said, hey, can you come in and help us for 4 weeks? And the rest is history.
Correct. And I did not anticipate doing this. I had 3 successful businesses, and I decided to sell the businesses and go to mobile diagnostics because what I like to do is the drivability and electrical. While I was available for a short amount of time, the owner of the Automotive Training Center in the Exton campus asked me if I would fill in for an instructor who had walked out for a 4-week period. As it turned out, our thought processes really did align pretty good. And it wasn't a just making money thing. He really wanted to see the students succeed. He was also a former student of the school who later wound up buying the school.
Great story. Let's get into that a little bit later. But so you owned 3 shops, and then one day you said, look, I'm out. What was the reason for wanting to get out?
Well, I watched a lot of other shop owners, including my own father. Seems like never a good time to sell out unless you're doing bad. I made a decision that while my businesses were at their peak and very valuable businesses would be a good time for me to be able to finally do truly what I wanted to do, and I like the electrical and the drivability. And when you're in business, you've got to do whatever you got to do to pay the bills and stuff. So by selling the businesses, I freed myself up to be able to do really what I wanted to do. And it turned out to be very different than I thought. What I mean by that is that shop owners will usually just do the drivability and electrical because they have to keep that customer. As it turned out, is when you're doing it all the time, you're seeing repeat and the same stuff. So it turned out to be fun and also profitable at the time.
So you said, I'm going to sell the businesses and I'm going to become a mobile diagnostic tech.
I had the groundwork laid out already because in the last, say, 2.5 years in the buildings, I was taking in drivability problems from other garages. And so it was just a matter of switching it from my house to their house. And then it grew from there. There was obviously some shops that didn't want to.
Before you started to work here full time, how long were you doing mobile diagnostics full time?
Well, it was approximately about a year. I was been doing mobile diagnostics for on and off for about 6 or 7 years, but full time, it was approximately a little bit over a year, I guess it was.
So are you still going out and doing any of that in your free time?
I did that from 1996 when I started the school. I did that up to about 2007. And in 2007, I just started doing both things was a little bit too much at that point, so I cut back on it. So I never really backed out of it. I just do it when I have to do it or to help shops out. Mainly around my time away from the school now is mainly doing things like this, classes at Vision. And
were you at Automechanika this year?
Yes.
You're really in high demand, and I know your training is so good. So many people have said never miss a Jim Morton class. So those 4 weeks of temporary turned into a full-time gig. Did you love those 4 weeks and you immediately said, yes, I'm in when they offered you full-time?
Yes. You know what that really got me, I guess, what was seeing the reaction and seeing that you were making a difference in some of them students. Ironically, here we are 21 years later, and there's 28 students in that class, and I'm still in touch, either email or phone. I'm still in touch with over 20 of them still. And a lot of them now are obviously much older. They have children. They have businesses themselves. So it's very, very reassuring that I didn't realize before when you're making a difference in what they're doing. So.
You're making an impression on a young life. How many people have come up and said, do they still call you Mr. Morton, or do they finally call you Jim?
They're allowed, after they're out of school, I become Mr. Morton. No, Mr. Morton when I'm in school, and I become Jim Morton, or for some of them. But it's really weird. My current status, the fact that I'm here today teaching working techs and stuff, and then Monday morning I'll be back with teaching students that want to go into the field post-secondary. So it's kind of really unusual because I'm in the evening or here on a Saturday. There's the students here are trying to improve themselves and improve their career and make money for their mortgage and their bills and everything else, whereas during the day they're want to go into the field. So I got ones that want to go into the field, and I got ones that are trying to stay in the field. So it's kind of ironic. Like I joke, if somebody calls my name, if they say Jim Morton or Mr. Morton, I kind of know where I'm at that moment.
Got it. That's a great backstory. So today you're teaching the techs who want to improve, and your class was called this morning?
The class this morning was an introduction to LabScope, and it kind of started out as a fill-in. I think it was in one of the training events. I believe it was Vision, and all the LabScope classes out there today, including my own, all seem to be geared toward the advanced people that have had the LabScope. But there's a lot of technicians that missed the first wave of using a LabScope. Now it's very hard for them to get training because almost all of the classes are so advanced. So I started about 2 years ago, I guess, in some of the training events, doing an introduction to the lab scopes. And in the end of the 4 hours, I have them into more advanced stuff. And then at least now they can go out and take the lab scope they already purchased or get serious about purchasing one now. I would say that up to maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, a lab scope would really be considered to be more of a luxury type of thing. Now it's a necessity now. The systems, the circuits are so fast and they're so critical and so expensive, you have to be able to truly see them now. And then what I'll do like this afternoon is just almost about half of the students will be back, and then I got other new ones that will be using the scope for ignition purposes and stuff.
Got it. So what you saw in the students' eyes today and the questions that they asked, what was your takeaway on your first session?
The energy I saw this morning of the people that really were here for the absolutely 1,000% the right reasons. They now have realized what they need to know, and they're taking their, say, a Saturday day off, and I respect that to the hill. I always try to give a class knowing that in my head that the person could be someplace else and having his day off and stuff. So always make sure that they give them their quote unquote their money's worth and the time's worth. So what I saw at the end of the class this morning was complete satisfaction of what they hope to get out of it.
I'm talking with Jonathan Giachelli, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. So, Jonathan, how does a service professional get the Guru on the Go van to their shop?
There's a couple ways. We do what we call cold calls, where we go around and just visit shops based on geographics. And there's also times where we team up with outside sales reps from other parts distributors and visit the shops on that basis.
So I love this. You pull into a shop on a cold call, they see the van, and they're probably excited to see you.
Yeah, I've had a couple shops where they've actually have already heard of the Gurus via Facebook or social media. So when I show up, they've already been signed up and taken online classes, and now at the van's there, it's really easy to book a lunch and learn.
So you're really an extension of the Garage Guru training centers.
Yes, absolutely.
So you're all done with your lunch and learn. You spend 45 minutes to an hour. Probably that's all you can really get from a busy, busy shop. What are the technicians saying about your shop visit?
Oh, they love it. They thank me, every second I'm walking out the door and just can't wait for me to come back again.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On-site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. You told me a story about George Menchu before. You had him on the show. Now I got you. Bring us up to date on that story.
Yeah, George and I, back in 1996, actually, 95, 96, we did a couple classes together in his area and my area. And in the fall of 96, we did a class together in King of Prussia area, which is only about 7 or 8 miles from here. And at the end, I told George we were supposed to do something else together. And I told George, I'm going to go and do 4 weeks at this school, and we'll talk about getting together again in another about a month or so. And George and I, when we do get together now, we still joke about that because he wants to know when that 4 weeks is going to be up and stuff.
4 weeks here at ATC, the Automotive Training Center. Beautiful facility. Wow.
Yeah, it's a very, 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 boy, if the people really want to, for the right reasons, this is it. The beautiful part about this is it is owned by a family. It's not owned by a corporation. And the president of the school is a former student of the school. And that's a very powerful thing because when I go to him, I tell him I need so-and-so. I'm not going to corporate. He's an ASA certified technician, so you can talk to a tech-to-tech with him, and he knows what you need and everything else and stuff. So when it came to purchasing a performance dyno or something, he knew exactly what we need. You
don't have to go convince someone in an ivory tower what you need.
Absolutely.
He's at that level.
Yes, he knows what you need to make our students. And then even in my case, I teach an advanced course here.
Yeah, tell me about that because NATAF, NATAF, of course, this is an accredited NATAF school, but you're not teaching a NATAF class.
We teach all 8 NATAF. We're an ASC certified school, so we teach all NATAF certified required classes. And NATAF's requirements are engine performance, a 4-week period. And we double that, and we give them an 8-week period of engine performance, and then they got 8 more weeks of coming into my class with advanced engine performance. And to simplify, to understand, I tell the students all the time that basically in the engine performance, they're learning the pieces of the puzzle. They learn what a map sensor is, a mass error, an oxygen sensor. Then in the advanced engine performance, they learn how one circuit can affect another circuit. So they're actually truly a little bit more prepared for the work and field than a normal school.
You told me that the owner of the school is an ASE certified master tech.
His name is Steve Hiscox, and like I said, he was a student, and then he left the school and went to work in the field and did a good job as a technician. And at a later point, maybe 10 years after he graduated, he came back into the area of the school and kept working at the cars, but also took a part-time job as an instructor. And while he was a part-time instructor, he saw the ability or the possible the opportunity to purchase the school. So I'm not quite sure how all that went, but he wound up purchasing the school. And the school wasn't quite as large, anywhere near as large. It was one campus, and that campus was about half the size that it is now. And he purchased the school in 1991. This is his 25th year as the owner of the school. He did everything he could to improve the school. First of all, after 3 or 4 years of owning it, he restructured and modified the school, and then he added another building. So I spent the first 9 years with him at the other campus. And then finally, in my home area right here, he decided to open a second location, which is a nice large location and stuff.
Beautiful school. What does the school lack? I looked around. It is big. It is large. It's got all the high-tech tools. It's got a body shop. Just the center piece where all the bays are. I've never seen something that big.
Yeah, not just a body shop. We have a complete body program, complete with paint booths and everything. And then we also have, on the other side of the school, we have a marine / diesel division. So the students here can get into the marine part of the industry. They can get into the diesel part of the industry. And then in the middle of the school, we have the large, probably more than likely 2 or 3 times the size of most dealerships, the work area, and with the performance dynos and everything else. So the student can come for a basic program, or they can come in for a complete program and do diesel, plus also they can do the body program. Some of them do everything, every part of it and stuff. And they really have a lot more bags, and a lot more tricks in their bag as far as what they're employable for and stuff,
Jim, what's your greatest satisfaction as an instructor with today's students?
I'm really happy. Of all the things I wanted to talk to you about, I try to talk to the new instructors about this. It can be very frustrating to come in from the field and trying to teach post-secondary, 20-year-olds and stuff that really don't know that much about the industry yet. But the most satisfying thing I tell them, when that student comes back and you run into them again 3 years out or 5 years out, and you see how successful they have become, sometimes you don't realize it's going to happen. I tell the instructors here a lot of times that it may not seem like they're really listening to what you say, but it's amazing how many times they can repeat exactly what I said to them 5 years ago. How
rewarding. I mean, I guess it takes them to go out and get a job, you to bump into them, for you to realize the impact that you have.
If I'm or other instructors are doing it for the right reasons, you're really doing it to transfer your knowledge. And it's not just reading out of a book. You're really getting what they got. A perfect example of that would be my wife has a very nice high-end car, and one of my former students is a shop owner, and he's the one that services that car now. And he laughs about that all the time, and is happy about that all the time, that he gets to work on Mrs. Morton's.
Somehow you helped grow your own technician.
Correct. That's exactly it. And they charge me still, though. But, I know the work is being done. Fantastic.
You said something really powerful just a moment ago about as long as you're here for all the right reasons. Of all the educational instructors that you know and you've run into, be it the guys that are here full-time in education or that work as trainers in the industry, I seem to think that these guys are in it for the right reasons.
What I found, and I've said this before I got in, like I said, I came into the industry kind of the back doorway, and what's the thing that most people we say or we hear is that if you can do it, you do it, and if you can't do it, then you teach. And there are some cases where I see people come into some schools, and what it is that they're not quite old enough yet to retire, but they're too old to be, quote unquote, not health-wise, to be turning the wrenches. And that shows in the classroom immediately. If you're there to really try to make create a good student and a good technician, you're doing more than just reading the book out. You're really showing them, here's what you're going to have to know. I take my students, and a lot of the other instructors, we take our students on field trips. We bring guest speakers in sometimes. A recent interview you had with Pete Rudoff, I've had Pete Rudoff in my classroom numerous times talking to my students. So you got to really look at the whole package. It's not just saying that you read this chapter or that. They got to understand the industry, what the industry is going to expect of them.
Have you ever mentored any instructors?
Yes, mainly in the first 9 years here at the other campus, I was the chief instructor, and my job was to also help guide them along. In this school, I'm not the chief instructor, and what I do, and the rest of us do, if somebody is going to apply to our school, obviously they go through the right channels at first, but then the end result is that we, the resident instructors, we sit in a class and have the person do a practice teach. And they got to show us what he's got. So he's not going to be by himself. He's going to be part of a team. And we want to make sure that he fits into the team.
So it's so big in the industry that we continue to talk about our future technicians, and we'd have to grow our own. But the graduates you see coming out of here, are they going to the independents? Are they going to the dealerships? Where do you see them landing?
It's very interesting because there's a recent article, I believe it was in Motor Age magazine recently, about how shop owners look at post-secondary school, and also. And I would, as a former shop owner, I agree with this statement. You would feel that if you have a person come in for a job that just played around in the backyard with vehicles, you would feel that person would need a lot more mentoring or time to develop. Whereas if you have somebody with 18 months to 2 years in a post-secondary school, you're expecting that student to be able to come in and do things that the other one would not be able to do. And that's what I enforce in my class also, to tell them that, you will be expected to do a little more than the other one because of the simple fact that you're here. And then also, if you happen to be an automotive training automotive technical student here, then they also probably know about the advanced class, so they also expect. The funny part, and kind of makes me sit back and think a little bit, I've had some shop owners come to me sometimes and say, you're Mr. Morton, you're the one that ruined my shop. And I said, well, how does I ruin your shop? And they say, a lot of my techs now won't touch anything very technical now until so-and-so comes in at 2 o'clock after school. And I say so sometimes what happens is the opposite actually happens. Instead of mentoring my student, in some cases, my student is mentoring their techs and stuff. So that's when you sit back.
That's when you stop to think, maybe I made it.
Yes, that's what it come down to. Or funny, in the state of Pennsylvania where we're at, my students also get their emission license. And in the state of Pennsylvania, like all other states, they have to come back every 2 years and recertify. So just this past Tuesday, actually, I stayed and I did a recertification course. And I kind of really enjoy that because I got students in that room now that were 2 years out, 4 years out, 6 years out, 8 years out. And it's amazing how many times I hear something, Mr. Morton, why didn't you tell me you really knew what you were talking about? I would have really paid attention.
I'm sorry. That is just so classic. That's the old story that the older I get, the smarter my parents get, right?
And one just said to me the other night that said, I want you to know that when I need to find my notebook, that I took notes in your class, I have to go around the whole shop to find it because everybody uses that notebook.
Oh my God, isn't that cool? Yes. That even all those years later they value those notes.
So again, that's a powerful thing to talk to with the new instructors, but that you don't think that they're really listening, but it sinks in. In my case, the same thing. My mentor died abruptly in 1993, and the things that he told me, that I never got a chance to really do until after he passed away. I said, oh, that's what he was talking about when he said that, you know. So my mentor, Automechanika, a senior, there was a junior running around. He taught for Aspire. He taught for a Ford Motor Company. Just a very, very down-to-earth instructor or mentor that really knew how cars worked and stuff. And that's very, very simply what I try to pass on.
So how many years here? 22?
20. He was actually my Philco Ford instructor. That's how far back I went. So after I had him as a Philco Ford instructor, I talked to him, he talked to me, and he probably took me under his wing for about 25 years before he suddenly passed away in 1993.
So you were destined to be an educator? And so when they said, hey, come here and teach for 4 weeks, we have a temp position, you probably said yes right away because you knew that somewhere along the line this was your destiny.
Yes. Like I said before, Tom had died in 1993, and in 1996, we're talking a mere 3 years later, and I thought a lot of times about how much more money he could have made if he didn't stop to help me, because it was only for a year and a half that he was actually my instructor at a school. After that, he was my mentor, and I traveled with him. He took me on problem vehicles. He would turn around to me all the time. He said, okay, I know what I think I should do. What do you think you should do? And so he made me, instead of giving it to me, he made me work for it.
That's the mark of a great mentor. So you're in high demand all over the country at these big events. The school is probably proud of having you go out and represent them.
Yes, it's I guess it's a little feather in their cap, and mine. So it's being recognized by your peers, and then also the post-secondary students.
Give me your greatest memory of a student, of an interaction, of something that makes it all worthwhile.
The one that always sticks out of my head, there was a student, and his name was Dan Young, and I had him at the other campus, I guess 12, 13 years ago. He was one of my students. And he was one of the normal young guys that at first anyway, they just probably like myself, I knew everything. And every time I tried to teach him something, at first he was very smart, but there was times he challenged me on things and said, I don't think that's the way that works and stuff. And we butted heads a little bit, but he got to the point where he respected. I proved to him that I knew what I was doing, and he respected it. And make a long story short, I helped him secure a job at a Volvo dealership, basically doing oil changes and sweeping the floors. Here we are 12, 13 years later. He became the top drivability tech at that dealership. And Volvo has a thing, just like all other manufacturers, where their technicians go against each other for national competition. And Volvo's is called Volvo Vista. And every country in the world has a champion for Volvo Vista. Then they all go to Sweden and they compete in Sweden. A little bit of a disadvantage, I believe, that Volvo Vista recognizes a U.S./Canadian champion. So Dan Young had won twice in 2 years in a row as the top drivability electrical tech for Volvo, and him and his whole family got to go to Sweden, for international competition where there is no winner there. Everybody's a winner there. It's a fact that you got to pick. So he came back to the school and talked to my students, and I'm going to take this as a compliment. What he said to my students was, this man just looks dumb. You should really listen to him. He knows what he's talking about. And he did say in front of the students that if it wasn't for him, he would have never got to the level.
So there's a little bit of Jim Morton in Sweden at that award.
Correct. All right. And you see it, yes. Just the end of that is he no longer works at that dealership. He now works for Volvo as a factory troubleshooter. So that's how much better can you get than that?
Well, it's been a while. Been chasing you for a year. Thank you so much for coming in here and doing this interview. And I know you got another class to do, but thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it. Great job you're doing for the industry. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jim Morton. You've been so instrumental helping to educate many successful technicians over the years and have helped shape careers. You have a huge amount of respect in the industry, and we value your passion for education. Find an extended bio on Jim Morton and the episode talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E271. Hey, I love it when you write. Got an idea for a guest or a subject we need to cover on the Town Hall Academy? Are you interested in telling your story? Well, drop me a line at carm@remarkableresults.biz or head over to the contact page on the website. You know, by listening and learning, just one thing, you help drive the quality content provided each and every week. So glad to have your support.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time,